And by the way,
law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run. They call an election, and they have an election in a month.
Yeah, and nor the influence of money. We should do that. Right?
Yeah, that's going to be hard to get rid of. They tried. Yeah. But no,
It's like you don't need 100 days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years? Did I tell you about the attachment that gets under the... Yeah, you did. You told me 1,000 times.
Clay Harris just released her new book, and as expected, it's packed with explanations for why her campaign failed. Bill Maher couldn't stay quiet on this when he jumped in with a sharp response. According to him, 107 days was plenty of time for her to secure a win. But that's not all. Maher also pointed out several claims in the book that simply don't add up. His take is blunt, and it's bound to ruffle some feathers.
The violence and the crime, people just getting away with it, cashless bail, whatever. I want to see law and order, and I think that would be helpful.
Well, apropos to that, I'll bring up one last subject. Somebody didn't write this, but I want to say it because it's interesting. Some new polling came out, and this is really, I'm speaking to the Democrats especially here, because Trump's numbers are down. They're down with Latinos. They're down with blacks. They're down 15 points with whites. And when whites say, you're not hip anymore, ooh. And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't score.
Maher starts off by pointing to new polls showing Trump losing some ground with voters. But when it comes to the issues people actually care about, like the economy, it's the border and foreign conflicts, Trump is still in the lead. Maher says this should be the perfect moment for Democrats to reset and make real progress. Instead, he argues, they're too focused on identity politics and culture wars that most Americans don't care about. And just when it seems like he's finished, Maher drops a hard-hitting point that could shake up the entire Democratic Party.
When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are fucking stupid.
2 points on respect for democracy.
Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway.
What's surprising is that Democrats aren't even dominating on the one issue you'd expect democracy itself. You'd think the party that prides itself on protecting democratic values would be miles ahead, but that's not the case. Polls show Republicans catching up, and in some cases, even pulling ahead. On the question of which party represents democracy better, that's a serious warning sign. It shows the Democratic Party is losing its identity, the very foundation that once energized its supporters. Instead of winning trust with consistent values, they've gotten bogged down in identity politics, empty gestures, and constant internal fights. The result? Many Americans no longer see them as the natural defenders of democracy. And if things keep moving this way, Democrats won't just risk losing elections, they could be heading toward political collapse.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did?
No, you didn't.
I'd like to...
I'll say a lot of lies on this show, but I won't take that. I will not accept that.
I thought you might ask me about it. That's why I had to read it. But the point is, it's like, as you probably know, it's like a diary of what happened. But I was looking for, okay, and what's the plan for the future? There wasn't any, and she's just indicative of the party at large.
The DNC doesn't seem to have any real plan beyond attacking Donald Trump at every opportunity, even over the smallest, most meaningless issues. Outside of those constant jabs, there's no clear strategy, no vision. and no unifying message that explains why voters should trust them with power. This failure becomes even clearer when you look at Clay Harris. After losing an election and then publishing a book, you'd expect her to take responsibility, reflect on mistakes, and outline a stronger path forward. That kind of honesty could have inspired confidence. Instead, the book delivered none of that. No vision. No strategy, just recycled excuses and self-defense. It's a reflection of the broader problem within the DNC, party stuck in denial, fueled by outrage, and offering voters nothing solid about the future.
And by the way, that's one of the reasons she lost.
She's rewriting history in the book, too. She's now against men and women's sports. Like, come on. Like, they tried to dismantle Title IX against women when she was vice president.
Right. I mean, that's just one of many examples.
She could have had 701 days and would have still lost that race.
But you're right. The data says it's cost of living, it's inflation, it's immigration, illegal immigration, all those things. Everything else is at the bottom.
Kamala Harris appears to be quietly stepping back from the same woke politics that dragged down her career. At first glance, that might seem like progresses if she's finally learning. But here's the catch. Instead of admitting where she went wrong, she's trying to rewrite history. Now she wants people to believe she's against men competing in women's sports, even though she openly supported it when she was in power. That kind of spin doesn't fool anyone. If Harris really wants to rebuild trust, she'll have to take the harder road on up to her mistakes, admit she was out of touch, and cut ties with the radical wing of her party. Anything less will make this so-called rebrand look like nothing more than political survival dressed up as common sense.
And by the way,
Law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run. They call an election, and they have an election in a month.
Yeah, and nor the influence of money. We should do that. Right?
From the very start, Maher doesn't hold back on Kamala Harris's new book. To him, it's not a serious reflection, it's just a list of excuses. At the center of her defense is the now famous 107 days she claims wasn't nearly enough time to share her vision and connect with voters. In her view, that short window doomed her campaign. Maher flatly rejects that argument. He says voters didn't turn away because of the calendar. They turned away because they finally got a good look at her. After years of staying in the shadow of the vice presidency, Harris had her chance to shine. And when the spotlight hit, people weren't impressed. It wasn't about time. It was about trust, likability, and authenticity. And those were the qualities she simply didn't have.
Days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years? Did I tell you about the attachment that gets under the... Yeah, you did. You told me 1,000 times. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
All Clay Harris really had to do was tell Americans how she planned to tackle the problems they deal with every day. That's it. Lay out real solutions, present a vision, and let voters decide if her ideas held up. But instead, she gave nothing. She even had a perfect chance to set herself apart from Joe Biden by showing what she would do differently if she were president. That moment could have proven her leadership and independence. Yet again, no answers, no roadmap, no bold vision. It almost felt like she expected voters to hand her power without offering a single plan. And that's the real problem. Harris has no clear message, no distinct identity, and no credible solutions. Without those, no campaign strategy in the world can save her.
You know, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because
it is
he
what
was
she
gay.
said.
My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk.
And that's exactly the point. Bill Maher is driving home the outright contradiction from Kamala Harris. In her own book, she wrote, in plain language, that she didn't choose Pete Buttigieg as her running mate because he was gay. Those are her words on the page for everyone to read. But when Rachel Maddow pressed her on it, Harris backpedaled, insisting that's not what she meant, or worse, that she never wrote it at all. That kind of spin is political quicksand. If she can't stand by her own published words, why should voters believe she'll stand firm on policy or leadership? Maher's critique is simple, but devastating. This isn't just about campaign missteps, it's about credibility. And Kamala Harris is bleeding it away with every contradiction, every excuse, every clumsy attempt to rewrite her own record.
This is what she said about New York mayoral hopeful and radical hard leftist Zoran Mamdani.
What do you think of him and his candidacy? And what do you think of mainline Democratic shyness and agitation about the prospect that he's going to win?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported.
Do you endorse his candidacy?
I support the Democrat in the race. Sure.
Look, if you thought Kamala had acquired some wisdom, some class and perspective in the months since she was resoundingly beaten by President Trump, well, you'd be disappointed. All she revealed overnight is that she's a frightful bigot.
I couldn't agree more. And that's exactly why Kamala Harris crashed and burned in the 2024 elections. At the core of her failure is one undeniable truth. Kamala doesn't stand for anything. She avoids bold stances, shies away from principles, and rarely offers a clear direction. Take her response on Zoran Manis' candidacy in New York. It was painfully obvious she wasn't backing him for his policies or his vision. No, her reasoning boiled down to one shallow point. He's a Democrat. That's it. No merit, no strategy, no conviction. And that right there is the Democratic Party's problem. When loyalty to the label outweighs loyalty to ideas, credibility evaporates. Kamala embodies that weakness, and in 2024, voters rejected it loud and clear.
She decided for some reason now would be the time, instead of when she was actually running for president, to say all the ways in which she disagreed with Joe Biden, all the bad things she thought about the Biden team. Great. Okay. I'm here for it, sister. Go. I believe every word, by the way. So it's really been super fun to watch the circular firing squad amongst the Dems. Usually they're a little better about holding their discipline on that. It's usually the Republicans who do all the infighting. So I'm thrilled to see it. And I really can't wait until her next appearance. I can't wait to hear what she has to say next.
Remember when Kamala Harris was running for president and proudly declared she wouldn't change a single thing Joe Biden had done? That was her whole message, total loyalty, no questions asked. But look at her now. Out from Biden's shadow, no longer vice president. And suddenly, she's listing all the failures of his administration. Immigration, foreign policy blunders, you name it. The problem? These were the exact issues she stayed silent on when she had the platform and responsibility to make a difference. Instead of speaking up when it mattered, she played it safe. Now, after the damage is already done, she's finding her voice. For many Americans, it's simply too little. Too late. Her book and her latest statements only highlight why she lost in 2024 and why her future looks shaky. She's rewriting history, dodging accountability, and clinging to the same politics that failed her the first time. Bill Maher called out the contradictions, and voters already saw through the spin. If Kamala wants a comeback, it won't happen with excuses or blind party loyalty. It'll take brutal honesty, real solutions, and the courage to break away from the failed strategies that dragged her down before. And that's where we'll wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.